Hello gamers, Roots here, and today I'm excited to bring you something new from the world of Dishonored. Of course, I'm talking about the latest DLC titled The Knife of Dunwall. Anyone who's already played Dishonored should be familiar with the enigmatic Daud, the assassin who killed the Empress and ultimately set in motion Corvo's bloody path towards vengeance. But be prepared to become far more intimate with Daud, as in this DLC, Arkane has wisely shifted the focus away from Corvo Attano, placing you squarely in control of the Master Assassin. This change in narrative direction allows you to experience the treasonous happenings surrounding the Empress's murder in a whole new way. Before I go any further, let me first say that I've been eagerly anticipating story DLC for Dishonored ever since the game came out, and that I've been salivating like a Pavlovian dog ever since I heard about the Knife of Dunwall. So going into this review, I admittedly already had pretty lofty expectations. Now if you've seen my video review of Dunwall City Trials, the first Dishonored DLC, you know that while I thought it offered a nice compilation of distractions at a great value, I wasn't exactly blown away by it. Thankfully, the Knife of Dunwall scratches my DLC itch in a way Dunwall City Trials never could. Luckily, this DLC lives up to and even surpasses the high expectations I already had for it. Overall, it satiates my appetite for a compelling and meaningful story, allowing me to dive even further into Dunwallian mythos, while still providing the same solid gameplay that made me fall in love with Dishonored in the first place. It's nice to see some of the events Corvo experienced through the new lens of Daud. In Dishonored, I found Daud to be an extremely interesting character who, unfortunately, was largely relegated to an ancillary role in the main tale. The Knife of Dunwall remedies this by filling in the missing chunk of Daud's journey between killing the Empress and his ultimate face-off with Corvo. Luckily, the Knife of Dunwall feels wholly like Dishonored. By this, I mean nothing's really changed in the departments of graphics, sound, or controls, so any praise or complaints you had for the base game will inevitably carry over to this DLC. What has changed, however, all surrounds the fact that you play as Daud. First off, the story in this DLC runs parallel to the events which we previously saw through Corvo's eyes. The story again starts with the murder of the Empress, only this time you get to see it through the eyes of Daud. Having killed the Empress, Daud once again catches the eye of the outsider, who sends him on a path of discovery. I'm not really going to go any further into the story, as it's one you'll want to uncover on your own. I will say that while this wasn't exactly the tale I expected, it is a competent and fairly engaging one, and one that, if you are a fan of Dishonored, is well worth the price of admission. Giving players control of Daud also allows the reshuffling of some of the powers the players have at their disposal. Not all of the powers from Corvo's side of the game make an appearance here, but to offset this, Daud has a few abilities that are wholly his own. And honestly, the fact that Daud sports a different skill set than Corvo helps make the gameplay feel new again, while still keeping it natural to veteran players. While I already felt Blink was the best part of Dishonored, Arkane has miraculously managed to make it even better here. Daud's Blink is actually augmented by the ability to stop time completely as long as he's not moving when he initiates Blink. This opens up a whole world of possibilities. I often found myself taking daring leaps knowing that time would stop when I initiated Blink, allowing me to take my time in targeting my landing zone. I had a ton of fun with this, and it really changed up the way I played the game. The time-stopping ability can also be used in instances, say in the middle of battle, to give yourself a moment to think about your next move. Now, admittedly, some may find this to be a cheap tactic, but I found it an absolute blessing during those times where you inevitably mess up and tip off every overseer in the area. Daud can also gain the ability to summon an assassin to do the dirty work for him. This is a very cool power and really makes you feel like the leader of an assassin's guild. This power can also be enhanced to allow the summoned assassin to use additional tactics and powers. As a master assassin, you'll also have the ability to call in favors before each mission. For a small amount of coin, these favors tend to make things a little easier by offering benefits such as additional runes left about the level, oil tanks being conveniently placed by gates, or other treasure troves being made accessible. And trust me, you'll definitely need these new powers and, the occasional favor, as, at least for me, it seems the difficulty here has been ramped up from that in the base game. This could also be attributed to some of the areas you explore being more open, which increases the possibility of being flanked, but for whatever reason I did find a good challenge throughout the few hours I spent with this DLC. Part of this challenge comes from encountering and learning the patterns of new enemy types. While most of them are based on prototypes from the base game, they still require a little getting used to. One new enemy I particularly liked/hated was the Butcher. The Butchers feel to me like this DLC's version of the Tall Boys. These enemies are heavily armored up front, but do have exposed oil tanks on their back. Additionally, they carry a deadly buzzsaw that inexplicably fires bullets. When I first encountered these enemies, they were an absolute nightmare, but again, I welcomed the challenge. As was the case in the base game, there are multiple paths to each objective, and finding the hidden routes is half the fun in the DLC. Again, as you play, you'll rack up either a high or low chaos rating depending on how lethally you go through each mission. I've only gone through the DLC once, but it does appear that again, your playstyle will result in slight changes to both the story and the number of enemies you'll see. While this dual chaos system is a sticking point for some players, it certainly does add to the replay value. There is just no way you can see both sides of this tale, or every interaction in the story, without at least 2 playthroughs. And trust me, if you're a Dishonored fan, you'll want to play through this multiple times anyway. To help reward those who wish to extend play through multiple runs, you can also unlock higher difficulties as you beat the game. So my final thoughts on the Knife of Dunwall are these. Overall, as I said, this DLC is very much Dishonored. It looks like Dishonored, plays like Dishonored, and thankfully it feels like Dishonored. Whether or not this appeals to you will likely depend on how much you like Dishonored in the first place. I personally love the base game and feel this is a welcome addition to the overall package. This DLC will run you $10 if you're in the US and will likely take anywhere between 2 and 5 hours to complete, depending on how thoroughly you choose to explore. So I certainly recommend this DLC to any Dishonored fans, especially if you're looking for a challenge. Hopefully this review has helped you decide whether or not this DLC is for you, and as always, if you liked what you heard or saw here, please tell a friend about it. It really helps the channel out. And again, my name's Roots. I'll see you next time.